We are continuing on in the Chol Shabbat. We started the halachot of choresh, which is plowing and dealing with ground, preparing it for plantation or for any type of zri'ah. And we mentioned that offshoot of that also is evening out holes in the ground. Therefore, we don't want to sweep an unpaved floor. We're very careful how we deal with unpaved flooring. We mentioned that even paved surfaces, we try to stay away from washing them and so on. But nevertheless, mostly this is relevant to when you're out in the backyard or in park, in some outdoor area, on a picnic, or you're traveling, in mountain areas and so on and so forth, that you have unpaved surfaces. This becomes very much relevant. You can't even smear something into the ground. For instance, imagine a person that is not well. He has spat on the ground, and he doesn't want it to stay uncovered like that. He wants to just smear it into the ground. And that on Shabbat will be a question. You cannot do that on Shabbat. You can walk on it. Lefitumo, that's not considered smearing into the ground, but you cannot smear it in the ground. Now, a game that people used to play 85 years ago when I was growing up, called jacks. You put the pebbles or nuts, whatever it is that you're playing with, and you have to throw up and how many you could catch on the floor. And that with your hand, you're going to be basically smearing the surface to grab the pebbles, the marbles, whatever it is that you're catching from the ground. That doing it on the home flooring, that's fine, right? Any pavement, that's fine. But if you're doing it on karkash and merutzefet, if it's unpaved surface, then you should not be doing it for the same reason, because you are again flattening holes in so on and so forth. That would be a problem. Titch al raglo al minalo mikanacho bekotel. If you have muddy season, rain season, you're going out and you have now some mud on your shoe and you want to clean it off before you get inside the house or whatnot, you want to scrape off the mud, the dirt from the top of your shoe with the sharp surface that you have, some edge somewhere available. That's not so simple, but you could smear it on a wall or on the floor level, on the ground. That would be fine to do it on the kotel, on the wall, but you should not do it on the ground, because again, you may come to even out surfaces on a karkash and merutzefet. Fine. Again, these are sensitivities of very fine-tuned details of this element midrabanan, but again, nevertheless, these are things that you have to be careful. If you have, let's say, a storage home, and you have boxes that are heavy, boxes of, let's say, produce, or chaviot shel yayin, barrels of wine. Even though you could go to this storage and take wine, take whatever it is, food items that you want, because we hold, like Rabbi Shimon, that there's no muktzeh. We don't say that, because you put them out of sight, out of mind, then you cannot handle them on Shabbat. That would be the concept of muktzeh in this particular area. We don't paskin that that's a problem. You could go get some wine from the storage, but you can't empty out your storage for a non-mitzvah need. But if you want to have seudah, you can imagine for whatever reason your house is not available, you want to empty out the otzar to the sides and make the middle available for Seudat Shabbat, for Sorach Mitzvah, you want to sit there, you want to rest there, that would be mutar. Now, if you create a ditch or dig a hole in the ground, and you need to use it For instance, you want to put some your jewelry inside, or hide something in the ground. So you're making a hole, and you want that hole because you want to put things in it, right? Then you're chayav because of boneh. This is no longer part of plantation, but now it's part of building. Building, it could be either building up or building down, right? So if you're digging to create a space that you need, that is an offshoot of binyan, which is on a doraita level, you will be liable for that. Well, if you do it in a way of destruction, then you're not liable doraita, for sure you're not. Because anyone that does something in a destructive manner is not considered a melacha. Melacha is when on Shabbat, work on Shabbat is only constructive work that is chayav. If you're doing a destructive work, that cannot be chayav d'oraita. It could be the Rabbanan. We still don't want you to do it. So it's a rabbinic prohibition, but not on a biblical level. And if it's in a place that is not really destructive, according to most poskim, then is asur at the very least midrabanan. Now again, this is a little bit of an offshoot from the halachot of charisha, of choresh, but that's basically the last thing that we put there. Now, the next melacha that we're going to quickly discuss is the halachot of kotzer, harvesting, right? Taking things off the trees, off the plant that's attached to the ground. If you go on harvest, actual harvest is the one of the 39 melachot of Shabbat. That's pashut, and doesn't make a difference if you are harvesting fruits, vegetables, produce. It doesn't make a difference. All of them are basically the same thing, even if it's legumes, anything that's attached to the ground growing, and now you're taking it off. That is kotzer. And all fruits, vegetables, everything is included. Anything that grows off the ground, whether it's considered food for human beings or food for behemah, so even grass, or etzim, or even wood, each one of them is going to be an av melacha of kotzer. You're liable on a biblical level, doraita, by any of these. Even if you are picking a flower, a single flower, it's not food, it's just beautiful, it's attached to the ground, now you cut it, that will be a problem as well. Now this is obviously, some people you see, they walk on the sidewalk and you have the landscaping of different houses, and they have this bad habit of, as they're walking and thinking, they may be playing with the leaves on the bushes and landscaping of different houses, different buildings on the way, or as they're going home, and they pick a little leaf or something. That is something to be very careful with, because you could very easily be in transgression of a deoraita if you're not mindful of your hands picking leaves from bushes.
Is it still harvesting if you're just getting one thing?
Yeah, you're harvesting. No, harvest is just a big word for taking a lot off at the same time. But even if you're picking one fruit, that would be taking this off of its growth, that's attachment to the ground, and that is obviously part and parcel of the melacha of kotzer being considered harvest in a small scale, but nevertheless. This is addressing your question actually. The minimum amount is im ra'ui lema'achal adam. Anything that is worthy of eating for a person is considered the minimum shiur, right? This is toledet melacha of kotzer, and shiur would be ka gerogeret. Small grogeret would be already, it's 1/3 of a betzah. So, it would be 18 grams, right?
So you can take one grape.
What's that?
You can take one grape.
And be chayav only midrabanan, for instance, you're saying, right? Huh? Well, becomes a whole question if you have chatzi shiur, chatzi melacha, really. That become a whole question. But one grape by itself could also be gerogeret, because shiur gerogeret by itself is a machloket, right? If you say zayit, kazayit is half of betzah, and gerogeret is smaller, is 1/3 of betzah, right? So one grape perhaps is gerogeret. So we do it with grams because it makes it a little bit easier to understand. But these shiurim are all subject to mainly being evaluated by volume, not by weight necessarily. So again, less than simple to say one grape, and you have larger grapes, smaller grapes. But gerogeret is chiyuv deoraita. Less than that would be at least the drabanan. Now, how about if I have a plant in a flower pot, right? It's not attached to the ground, it's in a flower pot. Is that considered taking something off the ground? So obviously, if it's asis nakuv, if it has a hole that attaches it to the ground, right? So then it's considered extension of being in the ground, and that's considered mamash being in the ground. If it's asis she'enu nakuv, if it's something that is not connected at all with the ground, so then it could become a derabanan level, perhaps. But again, this is something we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, because for all practical purposes, all of those would be asur. Is a question of what level transgression we're talking about over here. Now, how about if you have fruits that dried up on the tree? For instance, you didn't pick your figs, and the fig became dried fig on the fig tree, and now I am taking it off. Now, by definition, when a fruit starts drying, means it has stopped the yenika, the taking of sustenance from that tree. So it's attached, but it's not really attached, in a sense that it is taking sustenance from the tree, right? By the way, parenthetically, one of the difficulties of matzah shmura, people wonder why matzah shmura is so expensive. One of the difficulties is harvesting the produce, the wheat in this case, in a way that it does not become chametz. So you have to matzah shmura mishat ktsira, from the moment of ktsira. It kept it very careful that it does not come in contact not just with rain, but with any moisture that could render it chametz. Some years it could be a very tedious process. Now, it doesn't end there, because when you have wheat, if the wheat is fully ripened, it stops the connection to the ground of taking sustenance, and now it seems to be attached to the ground, but it could become chametz from that moment and on. Until a wheat is connected and growing from the ground, you could pour all the waters in the world on it. It does not become chametz. It's connected to the ground, it's growing, right? But the moment it stops growing and stops taking sustenance from the ground, now it's just stored on on the thing, but it's really a separate entity, and water could actually render it chametz. So, they have to have in mind, usually they end up harvesting it just a tiny bit early to make sure that the produce has not stopped growing. It's towards the end of its growth, but it's not stopped growing yet. So that you could see how tedious this could be, because it's a matter of timing, and the weather has to help also. If you have a rain season, you can't harvest in the middle of rain season when everything is wet, and you harvest it, and then automatically it's going to become chametz right away. So that's just in parentheses. But again, this is something to be mindful as far as the practical halacha goes. All of these things would be prohibited, whether it's midrabanan or midoraita. Now the question is like this: Can I walk on grass on Shabbat? What do you say, Chacham Shimon? He says yes, but the doctor's look is like, not so simple, right? Not so simple. Why would it be a question? Because if you walk on grass on Shabbat, especially if you're not wearing shoes, right? At the end of a walk, you'll find a lot of cut off grass on your shoe or in between your toes, and you have cut them off, right? So you have cut something that was attached to the ground from its attachment to the ground. So that would be really the fair question, right? Is it mutar or is it asur, right? The halacha is it's mutar. You can walk on grass even if they're wet. Mutar lalech al gabe asavim ben lachim ben yivashim, says the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Gimal, and the reason for it is because you don't mind those few things that are going to be taken, and every step is not going to necessarily involve cutting off grass. So therefore, even if it happens as a byproduct of your walk, it's not something that we are concerned about. It's tavashin mitkaven, and it would be mutar. It's not psikashe either. Now, can I smell something? Imagine I have hadassim growing in my backyard, right? Or the jasmines that everyone here has in their backyard, right? So Shabbat, I go Shabbat morning in the yard, reach nichoach l'Hashem, amazing smell. I want to go close, hold the hadas or the jasmine, and say bracha and smell it. Mutar or asur? Mutar or asur? So maybe I'm going to come to take it off, right? Forget and come to take it off, right? By the way, that's the issur of horseback riding on Shabbat. Why is it asur to do horseback riding? Because you may actually break a branch to guide the animal. And that was a very normal thing to do. There's still a normal thing to do for those who live in the countryside and they deal with horses and so on. So therefore, Chazal answered that whole thing. We're saying nowadays you could buy them online, or you could just conveniently, take it off the tree. What's that?
If you already have your riding crop in your hand, why would you go to the tree to get it?
Well, if it falls from your hand, then you're gonna take a thing, yeah. And again, all the gezerot of Chazal is like that. So imagine someone says, I have never in my life taken a thing. My horse is a very good one. Very, very smart, right? So it doesn't need a thing. So is that mutar? No, of course. When you make an enactment, it has to cover all bases. Otherwise, it's not going to stand even, right? But again, that's just as a tangent to bring it to our purpose over here, is that you have this concern. Maybe I'm going to smell the jasmine. I'm going to pluck it off. The halacha is that we're not concerned about that, right? You could go hold it with your hand, say bracha, smell it, no problem. But if it's edible, if it's a fruit that smells good, also it's a getrog, then we are concerned, because people do take fruits off the trees all the time for eating it. So we're a little bit more concerned. You could go close and smell it, but you cannot touch it, because you may come to forget and take it off the ground. That basically at least starts us off on the path of the discussion. And next shiur, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be talking about aseh besamim, all the flowers and so on and so forth, of how to to deal with them on Shabbat, both in the case that they are attached to the ground and the case that they are detached already from the ground. We'll discuss all those in the next shiur. Chazak u'baruch.